Coach Shoop didn't see you for what you were, but for what you could be. I didn't really understand what this would mean for me personally until years later, drinking that Gatorade outside my high school weight room. I was leaning back against my car, sucking down a bottle when Coach walked toward me. He asked how I was doing, and I went into a long dialogue about how I was training for an upcoming meet and how my squad had really taken off over the past year. I told him about all the training research I had been looking into and what things I had applied with success and what things did not work out so well. I let him in on a few bench pressing tips I had picked up over the past year and how, if he used a few of them, he might be able to get his bench press to go up 30 or 40 pounds. We spoke training for the next 5 or 10 minutes, and then he asked me how school was going. I guess he didn't know what had happened, and I had enough respect for him to tell him the truth. I told him how I went to Tiffin for a year and then transferred to BGSU and flunked all but one of my classes and was asked to sit out a semester. He went on to ask me if I was going back in the summer or fall. I told him that I didn't plan on going back and the college was not made for people like me. About this time, he leaned back against his truck that was parked next to mine and asked me one question I will never forget. "Dave, do you want to know what I think?" What was I supposed to say? Here was a guy I had respected since the day I met him. I respected him enough to just spend 10 minutes telling him all my training secrets. He looked me in the face and said, "Dave, you are not stupid. You have never been stupid. You're just lazy and do not care." This statement drove the point home. He went on to tell me how I had just spent 10 minutes telling him every detailed training information I had collected from books and journals. I had found the information, read the information, retained the information, and then applied the information. He told me that I already had all the skills I needed. I just wasn't using them for my other courses of study. If I placed half the effort into my classes as I did my training, then I would be an A student. It all came down to the fact that I did not care enough and was too lazy to try. He told me that I might have to work twice as hard as the next guy to get the same results, but that was my reality, which nobody cares about. Nobody cares how hard it will be for you. They only care about the end result.
Oh, and I did get a hold of Dave. I can't recall. I think it was through your dad, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was coaching at Glenwood Junior High football. I was head coach there for the 8th graders. And his dad asked me, he said, "Well, how many kids are on your team?" And I said, "Oh, about 40. Well, next thing I know, I got a box on my porch with under the bar, a case of them. And I gave each one of my football players a copy of that book. And I actually set them down at the end of the goalposts, and I read that section. And when I got done, I had tears in my eyes because it was emotional for me. And I just let them know that how much I love them, and just like with Dave, I didn't do it because I felt I had to. I did it because of the love of mankind and the love of Dave. I always tell these guys, if I've had contact with you, then you're mine forever. You can't get rid of me. You can't get rid of me. I'm going to be your biggest supporter. I'm going to be there for you if you need me, and I'm going to do whatever I can to make your life easier. And as a teacher and a coach, that's basically my foundation of why I do what I do. And because I care, and I let them know that. When they screw up, I let them know that. And when they do good, I let them know. I praise them for doing awesome. And I'm so proud of this guy, I can't stand it, He's really come along a long way. And like he said, I never said that to Dave, but I've said it to other kids that went to Findlay High School. If you don't change your ways, you're going to prison. I didn't say that to Dave. I said, "Dave, you need to think about what you're doing here. You just told me all this stuff you're doing. You're not dumb. You're lazy. Get it together, man." He could have just punched me and said, "Screw you," and went on with his life, right? And kept doing what he was doing. And I'm just glad and I'm honored to call him my friend, besides one of my football players, one of my weightlifting partners. Back in the day, before either one of us knew what weightlifting was all about, huh, Dave? We were both rookies at that age, Dave had been doing it for a long time, and I probably picked up a lot of things from him. And I don't see anything wrong with a student teaching a teacher. I don't see anything wrong with that. And this guy right here, he taught me a lot about lifting, and he's still doing it. My bench still isn't going up.
I suck as a teacher.
No, you don't. I'm just bullheaded.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, it will go up, and I definitely will send you a video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still I'm still stuck in a mindset that to this day that I'm still not good enough, that I'm always in over my head. You know, that's how I always feel. You know, it's just who I am. And so, you know, I hear people say things like that, and I just, to me, it's in my head, it just rings this bullshit. You know, that I'm not that person, that, you know, I'm still have a lot to do, you know, that I don't have the confidence I should. You know, the same thing that most people probably think, they just don't admit. You know, I've just learned, what the fuck, I don't have nothing to lose. You know, I'll just admit it and go on with it. It doesn't make me weak, you know, because I'm still going to do it, you know, regardless of the fact I'm still going to do it, because I'm not lazy. You know, I already figured that out a long time ago. You know, I may not know what I'm doing, but I'm still fucking going to do it, you know, because you can sit around trying to figure out, you know, how you're supposed to do things for your whole entire life and get absolutely nothing done. All right. So I hear things like that, and that's kind of what goes through my head, is that, you know, I'm not there yet. You know, I still don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm still going to keep pressing forward because I don't know any other way. But as I said, I know I'm not lazy, and I won't be lazy, and I won't be outworked. And if you spoke to, and a lot of this was inherent in me before that conversation, but that just made it worse, you know, as far as my work ethic. Worse, better, however you want to define it. But you talk to Louis, you talk to John Meadows, you talk to anybody I train with, they're all going to tell you the same thing. You know, that you know, there's nobody that I've trained with that's not going to say that I wasn't the hardest working training partner that they have ever had. So it kind of all stems back to that. And I'm not going to be outworked. If I'm outworked, that's not because I didn't give everything that I had, you know, to be able to do it. And I'm not going to fucking quit, you know. So it's a curse, and at the same time, it's a gift. So there's two sides, you know. And if you know, she's nodding her head yes over there. So you ask any wife or any girlfriend or anybody who's associated with somebody with the same type of mindset, they're going to tell you the same thing. You know, that it's a gift and a curse. What I expect reaching out to him and touching base with him, I didn't really know, because it's always been a memory. You know what I'm saying? It was like, this is the thing that happened that changed my life. You know, and so in some ways, you know, I wanted to reach out. In other ways, I just wanted to keep that as that memory, because I don't want to fuck it up. you know, and not that, you know, yeah, he could have been a total dickhead or, you know, whatever it is, but, you know, I also got a habit of fucking things up sometimes, you know, so it was weird. Let's just put it that way. It was weird, but worth it, you know, because I think that the people that have influenced your life, you should let them know, you know, because I'll pose a question back to him. How long did you teach? And you're still teaching now, but how long did you teach before? How many years?
I've been 32 years at FriendFeed.
So 32 years, and how many years of coaching?
32 years.
How many people have come back to tell you that you changed your life?
About 5 people.
5 out of 32 years. Okay, so my takeaway is, and I know there's people listening now. I know for a fact that coaches and teachers have changed your life. 32 years, thousands of kids. You can't tell me only 5 were impacted because of this man. That's bullshit. All right. There's many more that need to go and thank those that helped them. Because in many regards, coaching, teaching can be a thankless job. And how did you feel when you read that and when you were told that?
When I read the part in the book, I broke down. I cried. And I was proud. I was proud of you, and I was somewhat proud of myself, but I'm not a person that does it for pride. I do it because out of the love of people.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when I read that, I couldn't believe it. I think I thanked your dad a lot of times for that. I mean, I'd go in and see him there when he owned the Skip Tate Appliances. I'd go in there and talk to him, just find out what you were doing. And yes, I did buy appliances from your dad.
Yeah. But it changed how you felt as a coach. It changed how you felt as a teacher because you felt you were appreciated.
Yep.
You felt that your work was appreciated.
Yeah.
And it was.
That was awesome.
All right. And for just 5 people, you know, think of all the people that haven't. Now think of all the teachers. You know, think to the people that I'm speaking to now. Think of the people that have impacted you, that you've never told. All right. Think of the difference that you can make to them. Look at what they gave you. You can't simply just say thank you. Come on. You know, these people changed your life. Give them the credit they deserve.
Bill, earlier you mentioned reading more.
When I read it to them, of course, you know, we're talking 8th graders, and, you know, 8th graders are pretty smart. They know it all at that age. But no, I honestly think that they were influenced by that because it was an actuality. It wasn't something that was made up. It was a former Findlay, you know, student that lived and was raised and born and raised in Findlay, Ohio. And so these kids could relate to that. And I think it meant a lot to them. So, but I had kids come up and go, wow, that's really something that somebody would write that about you. You're in somebody's book. That's really, I go, no, that's not why I read it to you. I want to make a point that you can do anything you want to, you know, kind of like Coach Mullen when he told Dave, you can do anything you want to, Dave. And I use that a lot. I tell a lot of kids, you can do whatever you want. You put your mind to it, you can do whatever you want.
I'm glad you brought that up because I can drive home the point that I was talking about. He passed before I could thank him. And I regret that.
I do have one thing. I just want to say that just a memory. Talk about coaching football when Dave was playing. There was Dave and another individual. We're 8th graders, and we were only allowed to have 2 8th graders on our 9th grade team, and Dave was one of them. And I remember the day that we were having a kick the football through the uprights, and the kids, the head coach, Mark Miller, said, anybody that believes that coach can do it, stand behind him. Well, you know, the other guys have seen me kick, but for some reason, one guy stood behind me. And you're looking at him right here. He stood behind me. The head coach went up, booted it, shanked it off to the right. The other coach, Bill Mullen, shanked it off to the left. And mine went right where at, Dave?
Up the middle.
Right up the middle. And I'll always remember that. I don't think there was anybody else, just you, wasn't it?
I was gonna lose.
No. Because you're a winner.
Yeah, I had nothing to lose. I only had brownie points to gain.
That's right.
And so what? If you missed, I had to run a lap.
Yeah,
Who cares?
so what? Well, didn't we have fun watching them run
Yeah,
though?
yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. So yeah, I have a lot of memories about things like that, and that's what we have to live on, you know, memories. We're building memories for old age. That's what we're doing. This is an awesome one.
The interesting thing with that, and why there's not a lot, is he coached me 2 years of football, I believe.
Yeah.
And that was it. All right, in the weight room every now and again, you know, because I did most of my training with the guys at Findlay Barbell Club, and every now and again I would train in the high school weight room. But I don't really consider, nothing. Don't take it the wrong way. I didn't consider that real training. You know, that was just kind of like screwing around because I hated training out there, except for training with this guy. It's the only reason why I went out there because the other guys, you know, were molding me into a power lifter and competing, and just a bunch, lack of a better word, a bunch of jerk-offs in the weight room screwing around who really didn't care about their training. I never took one of his classes. You know, I wasn't in his classes. You know, I was tracked differently. So this relationship that basically changed my life was not this relationship to where I was in his classes for 3 years in high school and he was my coach for 6 years, 4 years, and he was my position coach and we had dialogue every day and all this other stuff. There really wasn't a lot. You know, it was just like meathead to meathead. You know, he trained, and that's what attracted me to what he said. That's why I had the respect for him. When I didn't have respect, and he'll tell you, you know, I'm not going to hold this back. People know I didn't have respect for anybody in high school. I didn't have respect for any teacher. I wasn't a dick. I wasn't going around creating a lot of trouble. I was trying to stay out of trouble as much as I possibly can. I just didn't care. I didn't want to be there. You know, I didn't feel like I deserved to be there. I had zero respect for anybody. I didn't have any respect for the people I went to school with. I didn't have respect for my peers. I didn't have respect for people I played with. I didn't have respect for the teachers. I didn't have respect for the principal. I didn't have respect for anybody. I had respect for him because he lifted weights. You know, he was a meathead. You know, so if he said something, I listened. You know, and there were times he'd catch me in the hallway and he'd say some stuff and I'd listen and then kind of go about my way. But it always, you know, a little bit adds up. You know, those little chips, you know, they add up. And they were just little chips, you know, just little conversations here and there, nothing major, house training going, doing a couple training sessions here and there. They all add up, and they all added up to one moment in a parking lot. It's where when he actually went to give me advice, that trust was already built. It wasn't built because I was sitting in a classroom from hours upon hours upon hours. It was built because the guy cared about who I was when nobody else really did. You know, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time. It doesn't take a lot of effort. You know, it doesn't take, you don't need this big elaborate game to try to build trust. You just need a big heart. And that's it. And it helped that you had a vein that ran through your bicep.
Still there?
It's still there.
Man, he used to run around the football field yelling at us, fucking rip or be ripped, rip or be ripped. It was the coolest thing in the world, and that's why we made the shirt, you know? So I'm like, yeah, I got that. I tear this fucking head off.
I forgot that was his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nonstop too, man, 100 times a day. I loved it every time. You know, other people hated it because they were doing up downs. I think they're called burpees now.
Yeah.
That was a punishment back then, by the way. It wasn't an exercise.
Yeah.
It's something that you did when you got in trouble or you mouthed off to the coach or you swore. It's like, okay, up downs. Oh man, 30 of them. Oh man.
Yeah.
So why people do this recreationally today is beyond me. It's like, this was a punishment, man.
Yeah, it was.
That was to punish the viewer.
Yeah, it's like grass drills, man. It's the same thing.
Oh,
We had
grass drills,
tons of names for them.
Oh, yeah.
You know, people do it recreationally. It's so stupid. Obviously, they didn't have him for a coach, or they wouldn't be doing it recreationally.
That's right. I'm just glad he didn't punch me.
Well, what I'm thinking now is after seeing him bench, his bench still hasn't fucking gone up. So after all this time, he didn't listen to anything that I told him when I was standing in the parking lot. So he didn't hear a word that I said.